fun. Just again, nobody get hurt. Again, the thing that drives me crazy is people are like, oh, look at, Chet's getting bullied around. It's like, yeah, dude, we all know that. We all know Chet's getting bullied around. Did you watch the other stuff where he's doing Dirk fadeaways, hitting pull-up threes, blocking people? Like that's what we want to see. We know Chet's got to put on weight. It's not rocket science, but the other stuff, him doing that at that level is really impressive. I'm not going to get on Chet for being underweight right now. It's not what we're doing. Do you have any guys on the C's Summer League roster that you're really excited to watch? Because, like, I got a few highlighted by JD Davison, who, if you just go by CLNS Media's views, that guy's little, like, I got all the, I'm going to be a dog on defense, like that rant. Barrett, that press conference clip of 8 minutes racked up 10,000 views in less than 24 hours. Like, people want to see this guy.
Yeah, and I do too. I mean, he was like, if you look at it, like we can go through it, but I mean, like some of the stuff at the collegiate level was not good. But I feel like if you're going to take a shot on a guy at that point in the draft, you might as well take a shot on like one of the freakiest athletes in the entire draft, right? They came into college with a relatively high pedigree. Like, the guy's an absolute crazy athlete. So I am interested to see him.
Yeah, you can't manufacture that. And I want to see the speed. I want to see the athletic ability. His jump shot doesn't look too bad. He's working with lethal shooter Grant Williams, his trainer. So that's a positive. He'll get into a better rhythm. It'll work out his mechanics and stuff. So I'm just curious to see how he runs an offense, how capable he is as a ball handler. How is his defense? Does the athleticism translate to that end? That is what I'm curious about, because in terms of drafted guys, that's the only guy they have. You have Begaron coming back. He was fun last year because of, again, the raw athletic ability of him. Again, far from a polished product, but like a guy that could be just a souped up athlete on the wing for them. That's another guy I'm really curious about seeing. Sam Hauser in a real role instead of being just a shooter. Like, I just want to see what he is, because if there's two guys I think on the Summer League roster, maybe three, that have a real shot of doing anything with the Celtics this year. I think Sam Hauser's the obvious one because of his lethal 3-point shooting, and he definitely, like, he has range. Like, there's no joke to that. Like, the idea of him maybe being the Duncan Robinson, I don't think is like too far off. Like, Duncan, terrific shooter. That's your model right there. Let's see if he can maybe get to that. And then the two big guys, and I think really one of them, Travion Williams, is the one that's everybody's talking about. And his passing ability as a big man is something that you just don't find. Like, big men that are good passers. The C's have two of them, and Rob and I guess, Grant isn't terrible, but Rob and Al are terrific facilitators, at the top of the key or at the nail. Like, those guys can both really thread the needle with passes. It seems like they got another one here with Williams. And then, Kevin Galley, another guy that's like a high-end athlete, has played some NBA minutes, had some, a couple copies of the Clippers last year. I think from Florida State, I think is where he played his college ball, and, long athletic. So there's like three guys that I think that are worth paying attention to, and two of which we've never seen on the Celtics before. One of which, Travion Williams, we have no idea what he brings to the table. But I'm kind of curious in terms of where you lie. Like, anybody else on your radar that you're curious about?
The Hauser thing is the most interesting to me, because I felt like last year, and this will change this year because they brought in Gallinari and they brought in Brogdon, but like, they didn't really have guys that could shoot off movement. Like, Grant Williams, great spot up shooter. We all know that he's got his corner office, etc. Al Horford, he's going to be at the top of the key, those above the break threes, right? But they didn't really have anybody that you could, outside of, like I said, Jalen and Jason Tatum, they didn't really have anybody you could just like run a pin down for, run him off a screen and shoot. And if Hauser can give you that, well, he may find himself into 10, 15 minutes a night to be that specialist. I mean, like you mentioned, the Duncan Robinsons of the world, like, they figured it out there in Miami. I'm not saying he ever gets to that level, but if they can get 60% of Duncan Robinson on a team that's already completely loaded, well, it's definitely a tool that's worth having, especially when you're looking for a team playing 82 games and they're coming off that long run last year. If he can give you major minutes in a couple of games this season, I think that would be great for the team, just in terms of the overall depth and just an additional weapon off the bench to be able to shoot.
Yeah.
Think about it. If he could have actually given you minutes this year in the postseason, right, instead of Pritchard, who we all know in the finals went cold, like, that would have been major if you had another shooter last year.
Yeah. And that's it's like pitching in baseball. Like you can never have enough shooting in this league right now. The way the game is played and the way the reliance on 3-point shooting and how it can dig you out of a huge hole. Like, I mean, how many 20-point leads were blown this year? I think it was the most in NBA history. And I don't have the number, but remember, just any 20-point lead is not safe because a team get hot from 3-point range. All of a sudden there's a 15-2 run and that other team's right back into it. So, if you can have a dead eye shooter like that, but to your point, shooting off movement is a terrific one. Cause like, think about the guys they have. None of them are like Smart will take movement shots, but the confidence going in is always a bumpy road. It's always, if he's standing still, I feel way more confident than but like sometimes he'll take these out of the shot clock heaves and they go in. So Smart, it's almost like, how's he feeling that day? But Derek White, we all know is not a movement shooter. We know that Al Horford's a set 3-point shooter. Grant, set 3-point shooter. That's a great point about the movement shooter. And Hauser seems like a guy whose shot's hard to block and doesn't need a lot of time to get that off, which in this particular league is ginormous.
Yeah.
So
no doubt about it. So I'm interested in him, and I'm interested to see what Davison can provide going further because, I mean, he is an absolute freak of an athlete. So that is enticing just to see what he could possibly be able to do. If he, I mean, look, and I don't want to sound like I'm like super high on the guy, but I am at least, let me put it this way, very intrigued on what he possibly could provide down the road.
I said on the podcast 2 weeks ago that the high end version of JD Davison is like, I watch him and I see like a little Dennis Smith Jr. in there. Like there's a guy that's super athletic, really quick with the ball in his hands, can get downhill. And if you drafted a guy that went, like, I think he went 8th in the Mavs that year at 53, like, it's not bad. Again, as you said, like, that's worth a shot. Like, he has traits that translate. And like, if you find a guy at 53 who's probably not going to make the NBA at any point, but if he has NBA level athleticism, at least will help. And, again, not every pick is Nikola Jokic here. There's going to be a lot of duds in the second round. So that wouldn't shock me if he didn't pan out at all. But again, those are, bigger. I'm not sad about it. I understand why he's not playing, but Yam Madar is another guy I wish we could be able to see, because another guy with length at the guard spot who can provide a little pick and roll ball handling, maybe some shooting, but definitely some defense. I'm sad he's not going to be around, but I think I'll get over it very quickly, Barrett.